Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Merry Monday Mailcall Show. I hope you're all well and staying safe out there. Before we get started, I wanted to say huge condolences, my thoughts and prayers are with everyone in Bondi. Terrible events that happened overnight. Not just awful stuff. We have friends in Sydney. Luckily, everyone's okay, but it's just a terrible event. So I hope everybody is okay, and as I say, thoughts and prayers with everyone there. It's been a week. It's been a week, folks. For those of you who don't know as well, I was broken into last week as well. There's some terrible people out there, folks. But we're here to talk about comics today, so we'll just continue the show as normal. But thank you all so much for the support. And as I say, anything that, we'll keep an eye out in terms of what's happened in Bondi. Okay, right. Let's get on with the show. Let's see who's in the chat. I will put a link into the chat as well in case someone would like to join today. We are talking about Marvel Preview this week. Marvel Preview and Bizarre Adventures, 1970s magazine. That I recently got a whole host of books and thought that would be a good thing to share with you, sort of cheer the mood up somewhat, and we will have a good conversation, I'm pretty sure. We have Derek Hammontrees in the house. Good to see you, Derek. I hope you are well, my friend. It's as I say, I hope you're going. Let's ask, are you going to Heroes Con next year? If you are, I'll be there too. It'd be great to catch up again, mate. Thank you very much for joining. Okay, let's go straight to it. So just a bit of background on Marvel Preview. So released in the 1970s, late 1970s, it was, I'd like to say it was sort of like Marvel's attempt at heavy metal. But I think Epic Illustrated was a bit more of that. So Epic Illustrated, I think, came after Marvel Preview, but Marvel Preview, it was a sort of magazine format published by Curtis Magazines, with lots of more risque comic content that couldn't fit in the comic books because of the Comics Code. So the magazines were never Comics Code Authority driven, and so they were a little bit more freer in terms of what they could put out there. So it ran for, I think, let me just double check. 28 issues, I think. No, 34 issues. Tell a lie. It ran for 34 issues. It changed title in the 20s to Bizarre Adventures, which had been the launch issue of, I think, Cody Starbuck by Howard Chaykin. And as I say, it ran to 28 issues. 34 issues. 33 of those were all magazine format. And the last issue was a comic-sized book, which we'll come to at the very end because it is quite apt given the holiday season. So I will switch cameras so you can start to see these books. Marvel Preview was most notable for two things in terms of key collector. Oh, hello. Oh, didn't realize that I was going to be doing that. And two things that it was notable for. One is the first appearance of Rocket Raccoon in issue 7, and the second one is the first appearance of Star-Lord in issue 4. We don't have an issue 7 with me today, but we do have an issue 4, so it'd be interesting to sort of go through that. But there's some great stories and art featured within these books. So I thought they arrived literally about, 3 or 4 weeks ago. I've been sitting on for a while, so I wanted to do this. So let's show you what we've got. So the first issue of Marvel Preview presents Man Gods from Beyond the Stars. And I'll give you a sense of how these books look on the interior. Beautiful, beautiful black and white art. You've got Man God from the Stars with story and plot by Roy Thomas, script by Doug Mensch, and art by Alan Nino. Great stuff. I love the art on this. And again, black and white I'm a big sucker for these black and white magazines because, as I say, they're beautiful, beautiful books and beautiful art within. And again, even if you don't know the artists, I'd urge you to go and hunt them out. I mean, this is great from Alex Nino. And I think I recall this being reprinted in Star Wars Weekly back in the UK. But again, just look at the style and great art of that. And as I say, it features in this part primarily that full story. You'd get maybe one or two stories in. We've got Good Lord here, which is Marv Wolfman's story and art by Dave Cockrum, classic Dave Cockrum. But as you can see here, beautifully inked, I think, by a team known at the time as the Crusty Bunkers, because it's not your usual Dave Cockrum art. You can certainly tell it's Dave Cockrum. But again, just love the diversity that you get in these stories. And they're just that fabulous splash screen there, a splash page there. But what's notable about this issue is this beautiful Neil Adams cover, which again is one of these ones that just disappears, sort of slides under the radar somewhat. And again, it's a beautiful cover by Neil Adams, as you can see. And who else do we have? We have Christina in the chat. Hello, Christina. I hope you are well. Caught up with Christina briefly yesterday on the live. Great to see her. I am working on a sketch for Christina, so that will be coming very soon. Obviously, we've got some time off soon, so I'll be doing a lot of that type of stuff. I've never seen this. It's cool. Wait till you see the rest of them. They're all fantastic, these books. The thing that's great about these as well is, as you can see here, they're not super high grade, but they're not low grade. So I'd say that this one is a particularly difficult one because it is not your usual staples. It's glued, it's sort of square bound. So you're never going to get a perfect copy of that unless you find it's always tough. But still in good condition for the issue 1 of Marvel Preview. Now, unfortunately, I don't have issue 2 that didn't come in this lot. That one features the Punisher. And actually, if we go to this, there's an ad at the back for it. He's got his sights aimed on you, Marvel Preview, the Punisher. So we miss issue 2. And then we have issue 3. This is Marvel Preview featuring Blade, the Vampire Slayer, wanted for murder. A great cover again. And this is what I love about these. Most of them had painted covers. So you get these fabulous painted covers. And as you can see here, a little bit of damage on the bottom here, but in excellent condition. I hadn't got this, so it was great to be able to pick this one up. Lovely pin-up of Blade there by Gene Colan. And the story, got a number of stories in here from a lot of different artists. So Chris Claremont on the story with Tony DeZinger on art. And again, just look at this. It's absolutely fabulous stuff. A great new Blade story. And as you can say, they were very much able to do a lot more stuff that they could not normally do in the comic books because of the fact that they weren't subject to the Comics Code Authority. But you get these amazing stories and art told within, and all within Marvel continuity as well, which is the other thing that I really liked about it. Is it sort of ran concurrently alongside the comic books. And so you'd get these first appearances like Star-Lord and Rocket Raccoon, which would then invariably transition over. And there's a lot of sort of other characters like Lilith, the vampire, Queen of the Undead, that appear within as well. I think there's another story in here. You get a little photo history of Blade for those of them that don't know who Blade is. So you get to see his first appearance in Tomb of Dracula 10. And then full-on story there. What's also great is you get to see this Marvel Comic Con 1975 ad. I'm lucky enough to own one of the programs from that, but don't have the poster, the John Buscema poster there. But that poster is legendary. I do have the UK version of that, which came free in Avengers #1, I believe. So always great to see these little lads sitting alongside, and obviously Boom in there as well, and a lineup of the various Marvel magazines that you're able to collect. But yeah, super happy to pick that one up. Issue number 3. Let me just get back to the chat. Let's see who we have. Oh wow, it's gone crazy. We have, let me show this. Only thing then, I've never seen this. It's so cool. Thank you. Yes, I agreed. The gloss on those is incredible. They're pretty good. They're in pretty good nick, I have to say. There is a bit of a problem with them, and I'll take you through that in 1 second when we get to issue 4. I feel mine always came from a smoker's house. Yeah, well, that is probably the challenge. Yes. Welcome to the show. Good to see you, Brownell River Rambler. I have comic issues. Hello, good to see you. Welcome to the show. Random Reads is here too. Hello, y'all. How else? Who else have we got? There you go. We're up to date. Great to see you all. Thank you. And then we have issue 4. Now, this is the one. I think this is number 7 of the money books. So issue 4 looks in pretty good shape. Maybe one little spine tick there, as you can see. Beautiful condition. Needs a bit of a clean on the back there. But the big challenge with these is obviously they were from the UK, from a UK auction house, and they've got the 25p stickers on. Now, if they get graded as is today, that will get, I think it's a green label. They'll get a green label with the highest grade that they can possibly get, but it will make a note of the stickers. So in certain instances, I do try and get rid of the stickers. Now, you can do that. I use a method of hair drying the book, holding the book down, hair drying the book, and very, very gingerly lifting the stickers up, because you can sort of get the stickers off. And that's been successful for some books. It hasn't for others. What you tend to find, especially if there's dust shadows, the ink is far richer underneath the price sticker. So always be careful when you're doing that. But I do give it a go, just depending on the book. I have learned my mistake. I got a copy of Moon Knight with a UK price sticker, which got a 9.8, but ended up with the green label. So again, it's probably worth it if you're going to actually grade this one. Again, it might be one to give a go, because it's pretty good shape. And again, first appearance of Star-Lord. I think my highest graded copy is a 9.2. So this has a fighting chance with a clean and a press. Decent sharp corners. So we'll see. But for those of you who haven't seen it, on the interior, you get this amazing piece of Bernie Wrightson art of Star-Lord battling this alien creature on the side of a cliff. Again, one of the most unsung pieces of Bernie Wrightson in my mind. It's not his usual horror, but having Bernie Wrightson do this stunning Star-Lord piece, great little pin up there. And many people probably haven't seen inside this issue, but I love that Bernie Wrightson piece as a massive Bernie fan. And there is the aforementioned first Star-Lord. So story by Steve Englehart and art by Steve Gann. There's your beautiful splash page of the Star-Lord, telling the story of Peter Quill and his adventures and how he became Star-Lord. You get the whole story introducing Star-Lord to the Marvel Universe. But it's, again, always great to see this wonderful black and white artwork and the first appearance. A great story to add to the mix here. And then alongside that, you get a few articles about the Sword and the Star. And the Sword and the Star, Bill Mantlow's story, art by Ed Hannigan, Craig Russell, and Rick Bryant. Look at this. Fabulous stuff. Now, Sword and the Star would be where we see our friend Rocket Raccoon in issue 7 from memory. And again, great to see the sort of mixed use of media there. It's absolutely brilliant. And that's, as I say, this is one of those things. Marvel Preview is very underrated in my mind. And yes, the artwork is amazing. And Random Briz, that Bernie is awesome. Exactly. It's one of my favorites. And again, I think I remember seeing it in the UK back at the time in the Star Wars Weekly, which didn't know who Bernie Wrightson was at the time, but always loved that piece of art. You'll notice we have a small stain, so that'll nail us on the grade. So again, this is one of those where it only affects the cover, it seems. There's no staining elsewhere. So might be able to get that out, but we'll see. Again, I already have a copy of this graded, so probably keep this as a reader in the collection. But a great book to get nonetheless. We skip ahead from issue 4 all the way to issue 9. Now, let me just double check. Just in terms of, so Marvel Preview issue 2, that featured the Punisher. Marvel Preview issue 5 and 6 featured Sherlock Holmes stories. And again, I have never seen those in the wild, so I'll be hunting those down. Marvel Preview 7 was Marvel Preview Presents Satana, and that features that first appearance of Rocket Raccoon, named Rocky Raccoon in the first instance. And then Marvel Preview 8 is features the Legion of Monsters. And I do have a copy of that graded. So it didn't come in this batch, but I do have a copy of that graded, I think, in the 9s somewhere. So pretty happy with that. But yeah, this is issue 9 of Marvel Preview Presents Man God. A great looking book there as well. And on the interior, you get stories by Roy Thomas and art by Tony DeZenia. Great stuff. Again, beautiful black and white art. And again, they did experiment with a whole host of different characters within these books. And it's really good to see these very different characters that you wouldn't normally see in a book. So they could test a lot of these characters before they gave them titles in the books. But as you can see, again, this is in beautiful shape. Not that I would get this graded, but fantastic cover there to enjoy. Really cool stuff. All right, back to it with Marvel Preview 10. And again, great looking cover copy. Beautiful Thor cover here. The problem with Marvel Preview is that they put ideas for stories, or they put next issue, and then their printing schedule went awry somewhat. So, you know, sometimes this story, I believe, was planned for very early in the run, but then invariably came in issue 10. But again, you can see here they were able to use different characters. I'm pretty sure that cover artist is Jim Starlin. Not the cover artist, sorry. This frontispiece is Jim Starlin. Yes, confirmed. So the cover by Ken Barr, and this beautiful, stunning image of Thor is by Jim Starlin. So great to see more fantastic art within these books. Vincent's here as well. Hi, Vincent. Hope you are well, my friend. Hope everything where you are, everyone's safe. Good to see you. But yeah, look at this. Redondo on art here. And then you've got story by Len Wein, art by Jim Starlin and Tony DeZenia. So fabulous stuff. Jim Starlin art, inked over the top by Tony DeZenia. Just wonderful stuff. Seeing Thor outside of his regular title in a Marvel magazine. And a little look at the art on that. Like, absolutely fantastic stuff. So, as I say, you'd get these very obscure characters, and then you get these standard Marvel characters. We even got a Hercules, the Prince of Power, story by Bill Mantlo and art by Val Marek. Star-Lord returns in the next issue, and that one is a special one for me, and I'll tell you why in a second. But again, Great stuff. Not the Hercules that you know and love, but it seems a different Hercules in this one. But just fabulous art and material on the inside. Nothing can stop the rampaging Hulk ad there. Advertisement for Crazy magazine. But yeah, beautiful condition. Still got that price sticker on it, so that would always be a problem to sort of get rid of. As I say, it does need a bit of a clean, but these present exceptionally well. This one is one of my favorites. It's not a key book. It is, I think, the second appearance of Star-Lord. This is Marvel Preview 11. And again, you can see, great looking copy. Wonderful. Not very many, not any, like maybe minor spine ticks, but nothing massive. But what I love about this one in particular, this is Jim style and frontispiece here. Ken Bar cover once again. But what I always hunt this one out for is it is one of the early Chris Claremont and John Byrne stories together and beautifully illustrated alongside Terry Austin. So the same team that brought you the Uncanny X-Men in that legendary run are working here. And it is, in my opinion, one of the best drawn, beautifully realized comic book stories. And again, just shows you how great this creative team was at the time. And a perfect second appearance for Star-Lord. And we get such a mass of great aliens, wonderful artwork, and again, classic moments from John Byrne in terms of the way that he realized his style. It would obviously get a little bit rougher as years went on and he was inking himself, but Terry Austin's inks on top of John Byrne, it's a sort of marriage made in heaven. These two were just fantastic, and I think the pairing of Chris Claremont with John Byrne and Terry Austin, just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time in Marvel Comics. And as you can see here, just beautifully realized the detail that Terry Austin would put in over the top of John Byrne's amazing art. Just such a great pairing. And it's, as I say, one of my favorite comic books for the simple fact that it is a beautiful realization of this classic creative team from back in the day, and just beautiful, beautiful splash pages like this. Love to get some of the original art for some of these because they're just wonderfully realized. Zipper tone as well used, so they were clearly using zipper tone throughout, but you get this, as I say, story that goes on for the entire issue, beautifully done by the creative team. And Peter Quill meeting his father here. As I say, it's always an interesting one. Not the father that you see in the Marvel Universe, but just a great book to pick up. If you can, that one, relatively cheap as well. I mean, everyone's after issue 4, but issue 11, in my mind, is the one that you really want to get because it is such a great story of Star-Lord. Let me see. What's this? Those look better than most did coming off the shelf. Well, there probably just came off the shelf, read once, and then stored, which is great news. But thank you very much. There is some damage to some of these. You can see here they present really, really well. There's a little bit of corner damage on this one, and again you've got that price sticker. But yes, they're in beautiful shape. So super happy with them. This one is Marvel Preview Presents. This is issue 12. Presents The Haunt of Horror, featuring Lilith, the daughter of Dracula, with this fabulous Norm cover of Lilith herself. And you just, as I say, one issue you'd have science fiction, next minute you'd have horror, next minute you have fantasy. It was such a great title for diversity. I suppose probably difficult for fans to keep track of, because most fans like to sort of pick a title and run with it, but anthology titles like this tend to be a little bit stranger in terms of coming to life. So this one is Lilith, Daughter of Dracula, story by Steve Gerber, art by George Perez and Pablo Marcos. So again, they never really, well, on this piece anyway, this is George Perez with Pablo Marcos, but a main story, script by Steve Gerber, art by Bob Brown and Frank Springer. And as you can see here, another story of Lilith. Then you get Slinking Through the Psycho Ward, script by Doug Mensch and art by Mike Kaluta, of all people. Wonderful stuff there. Very rare you see Mike Kaluta art. Death of the Living Dead, story by David Kraft, art by Bob Brown and Pablo Marcos. But I just love, especially the horror titles, they could go a little bit more risque. We get a Dracula story too by Doug Mensch and Sonny Trinidad on art. Beautiful. Just love flipping through these. I'm very happy to pick them up. And as I say, a bit more gruesome than you would normally find in your comic books. Dracula was able to actually suck blood in these, as opposed to what he couldn't do in the comic books. So that's issue 12. Mixing it up once again for issue 13. Marvel Preview presents the UFO Connection. Secrets of the Illuminati revealed, Cosmic Trigger. Got some articles with John Lennon, Don Pendleton. But again, just look at the difference. Just, you know, issue by issue, you're getting a lot of space. The UFO Connection story. So conceived, written and edited by David Anthony Kraft, illustrated and embellished by Herb Trimpe and Klaus Janson. And again, you get some very interesting mix of art teams here. I've not seen Herb Trimpe and Klaus Janson before, but you can really tell, particularly this here, the work of Klaus over the top of Herb. But just fabulous, fabulous stuff. Not really a mainstream story, but a nice sort of anthology title to bring to the mix. Obviously cashing in on the UFO connection at the time and Close Encounters, which was launched around the same time. So a lot of these magazines sort of took advantage of new movies that were coming out and tried to sort of tailor the content effectively. And there's the end of the UFO connection story there. That's issue 13. Issue 14, we return to Star-Lord. And again, beautiful looking copy. Not bad at all. And this one has... this one is, from memory, again, look at the art on that. Beautiful stuff. From memory, this is Carmine Infantino on art, but it doesn't credit Carmine Infantino here. But this is the prologue, so you get a sense. I mean, again, beautiful double-page splash here with Star-Lord's spacecraft. And yes, inks by Rob Wycheck, story by Chris Claremont, and art by Carmine Infantino. Beautiful to see. And again, I'm not normally a massive fan of Carmine Infantino, but I do remember seeing this in the Star Wars weeklies at the time. So perfect to see this story in its original form in black and white, which didn't need to change too much when it got to the UK because most of the stories were in black and white anyway. But a fascinating little snapshot. Star-Lord, obviously, I think, had more comics in Marvel Preview than anyone else before moving over. But as you can see, a great little example. We've got another story here by David Kraft and art by Bob Wakelin. All a little saucy, as you can see. But yeah, issue 14, another great Star-Lord story. Issue 15, we get Masters of Terror. So again, we go from sci-fi to terror. And I think I covered this on a couple of weeks ago when I picked another copy of this up from the Yarraville Comic and Toy Fair and showed this one off. So we won't spend too much time on this one. But again, you can see beautiful condition with that advert for Cody Starbuck by Howard Chaykin on the back. Still got that price ticket, but in excellent shape. And we get the Hero Killer Principle. Not sure who's the artist and writer on this one. But the one that I really like is we've got a story by Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan and Tom Parner art called Voices. And the one that we really wanted to get to is Death by Disco by Steve Gerber and art by Gene Colan and Tony DeZenia featuring Lilith. So that's a great one to pick up as well. Unsung, I think, in terms of the horror stuff. This one always makes me laugh. I think the cover in itself is hilarious. That costume is quite fantastical and just very unusual. This is Marvel Preview featuring Black Mark issue 17. Look at that for a beautiful example of a high-grade book. Super happy with that. Sadly, with the price sticker on. But yeah, Black Mark. Never heard of Black Mark. I'm assuming another type of Conan type, sort of fantasy John Carter type character, as you can see here. Interesting way of laying out the story with not your traditional form, written word, and the odd panel. So clearly they ran out of time in terms of bringing this together and had to restructure the story. Fascinating, interesting story by what appears to be Gil Kane. Yeah, Gil Kane's story complete. So obviously Gil didn't want to draw it as a traditional comic book. And so this is what you get. Very unusual indeed. And as I say, Black Mark doesn't look the same on the interior as he does on the front cover. But yeah, it's a fascinating snapshot to see. I'd be interested to understand how this piece came together and why it was so different. Obviously, it just looks like Gil Kane pulled it together as opposed to necessarily any other creative team. So this is probably explains why it's very different. I had issue 17. Also had a paperback book that was the Black Mark comic. I'd be interested to understand if Black Mark was ever used again, and I wonder if the writers and artists for Marvel Preview, just like Epic, had some form of creative control over the characters, whether they retain the copyright slightly differently to what you would see in the comic books. Maybe Black Mark will make a return. It would be good to see. All right, then the next one, we skip ahead. Issue 18, I missed. Then there's a whole bunch of Star-Lord issues from issue Marvel Preview and Marvel Preview 18. Marvel Preview 19 is called The Destroyer. But then the title switches. Marvel Preview presents Bizarre Adventures, which is what the book would eventually become known as. And this is featuring Cody Starbuck. And again, you can see how beautifully this presents. But with Howard Chaykin's creator here, Dominic Fortune, sorry, not Cody Starbuck. The thing with Howard Chaykin is he had so many of these sort of types of characters that Dominic Fortune is essentially, in my mind, always been Cody Starbuck, just in varying different shades. So, script by Len Wein, art by Howard Chaykin, and classic Howard Chaykin art within here. Very sort of swashbuckling adventures, beautiful stuff. Fabulous to see here. Dominic Fortune, Noble Flag, Silver Screen, The Messiah. And again, just fabulous artwork, fabulous stories alongside. And obviously, Epic had been released at that point. And we got War Toy, story by Tony Isabella, art by George Perez and Rico Rival. So again, great artists within, and just, you know, you wouldn't normally expect to see this. Coming soon, coming Aquactions, Playduck, featuring Howard the Duck, issue 4 of Howard the Duck. And then a reprint, it would seem, of that Marv Wolfman, Dave Cockrum, and the Krusty Bunkers story back from early. So obviously they did at some point reprint some of the stories and later on in the issue. So nothing new there. But that's Bizarre Adventures. Number 20 of Marvel Preview presents the Bizarre Adventures. Number 21 is this beautiful copy of the Moon Knight issue. Needs a bit of a clean on the side here. No price sticker on this one. And again, this one features cover art by Bill Sienkiewicz. So not the stylized Sienkiewicz that you'd see, the sort of Neil Adams style of Bill Sienkiewicz, but beautiful painted cover, which is great to see. Oh, tell a lie, not front cover, frontispiece. Here's your Bill Sienkiewicz. Oh, it is a Bill Sienkiewicz cover, but it's a Bill Sienkiewicz, Klaus Janson, Steve Olaf, and Bob Larkin. So a real mix of the three there. And the frontispiece here is your pure Bill Sienkiewicz. Obviously, he was on the title at the time doing Moon Knight. And then we get script by Doug Mensch, art by Bill Sienkiewicz and Tom Palmer, and additional inking by Bill Sienkiewicz and Dan Green. So the creative team from the comic books continue over. It's a little dark, I have to say, but a great Moon Knight story nonetheless. But yeah, very dark in comparison to the others. Very sort of, obviously looked probably great when the finished artwork, but on the page, on the printed page, not as great. But it's very much in Bill Sienkiewicz's Neil Adams style when he was parroting Neil Adams's style a little bit in this one. But still, great to be able to pick this one up. And as I say, in fabulous shape. Wonderful book. Then we mix it up even more with issue 22. And again, this is my point. You'd get Moon Knight, you'd get UFO Connection, and then you get a Saga of Epic Beauty by John Buscema and Doug Mensch, Merlin. Great looking copy once again. And let's just have a quick look inside here. So the frontispiece by John Buscema and Frank Giacoa, cover by Earl Norham, story by Doug Mensch and John Buscema, art by John Buscema, Tom Palmer, and John Taglioloni. Just awesome stuff. And again, just look at that. Great to be able to enjoy some fantastic fantasy right alongside. Wonderful stuff from John Buscema there with Tom Palmer. I was never a massive Tom Palmer fan back in the day, but I've really come to appreciate his inks over the top of John Buscema over the years. But it's, as I say, it's one of those things when you're a kid, you don't really appreciate and understand the art form. And I remember his Avengers run in the 80s, the pairing there. So just wonderful stuff to pick that up. Then we have issue 24. Issue 23 is the first Marvel Preview presents Bizarre Adventures 2. But I don't have that one, unfortunately. I do have issue 24 with this wonderfully 80s cover introducing Paradox, the most incredible character concept in the history of illustrated fantasy. We shall see. So Bill Mantlo and Val Merrick on this one. And then again, just like he's a disco dancing paranormal parahuman paradox. He's beyond human. Look at that. Fabulous stuff. But let's have a look at the art. The art is pretty cool. Has to say. And there's Paradox dancing around. Very Logan's Run inspired, it would seem. Very interesting to see there. But decent looking art. Interesting stuff. Very, very Logan's Run. And again, you can imagine, I guarantee, probably Logan Run inspired at the very least. But wonderful. Even if this character didn't deliver what he was supposed to deliver. Great looking book. Oh, it's a bit rude, a bit saucy. But yeah, looking forward to having a read of Paradox. Look at him, the disco star, that most incredible character concept in the history of illustrated fantasy. Wonderful. And then we switch to issue 25. Now, this is where the book becomes Bizarre Adventures proper. And again, you can see the massive cash-ins here. It's certainly not safe for work, that page. Yes, I'm glad you spotted it. Very quickly skimped over that, or we did skimp over that. But yes, it is great. Thank you very much, and welcome to the show. Bizarre Adventures, issue 25. Now, this one, now, if you didn't know, I definitely inspired by Charlie's Angels. This cover in particular, featuring the Black Widow and Daughters of the Dragon. And you can see here, there's your Black Widow on the left there. So obviously inspired by that at this point. Let's see what we've got here. So we've got Ralph Macchio on writing duties with art by Paul Gulacy. Black Widow story. And again, pretty good stuff. A Humphrey Bogart-esque character, even a Michael Caine character there. Then we've got Chris Claremont with Michael Golden and Terry Austin on art for By Virtue of Blood, featuring Lady Damon. Very interesting mixed media from Michael Golden here. As you can see, using photos and then illustrating over the top. Fantastic stuff. Very, very different style for Michael Golden. And then we have The Daughters of the Dragon, written by Chris Claremont, art by Marshall Rogers and Bob McLeod. And again, here we go. Just really good to see these new stories that you wouldn't normally get in the comics because of the Comics Code Authority. So hence the reason why we had that not safe for work moment. So that's Bizarre Adventures issue 25. Issue 26, we got Kull the Barbarian from the creator of Conan. Let's see who we have in here. So I think this is one of the early John Boltons over in the US, on John Bolton work. So this is Doug Mensch on writing, but John Bolton, famous UK artist, on art. And again, wonderful stuff. John Bolton would, I think, become his most famous work for most comic fans is obviously his work that he did on classic X-Men archives, alongside a whole host of other stuff, but very much a sort of mainstay in the UK art scene. But beautiful stuff there. And again, great condition book. So there's Kull the Barbarian. One of my favorites and one I've been after for such a long time is Bizarre Adventures number 27 with The Secret Lives of the X-Men, which has 3 different stories. A fabulous front cover, which from memory is Paul Gulacy. Yep. And you get a Iceman story, a Phoenix story, and a Nightcrawler story. with the Secret Lives of the X-Men here. Get a data file of Phoenix, story of Jean's sister, obviously saying her farewells, but a story about Jean Grey back in the day. Beautifully illustrated. The story from memory doesn't tell. Yeah, script by Chris Claremont, John Buscema, and Klaus Janson on art. And as you can see, great little story there. We get the Iceman story, Winter Carnival. That one is by Mary Jo Duffy with art by George Perez and Alfredo Alcala. And again, fascinating, beautiful story there. But the one that I really like is Show Me the Way to Go Home, which is the Nightcrawler story with, I think it's plot by Mary Jo Duffy and Bob Layton, script by Mary Jo Duffy, but art by Dave Cockrum. Who else? But there's some fabulous images and artwork in here from Dave Cockrum of Nightcrawler in a sort of multiversal world. But great to have those three stories side by side. And as I say, I've been looking for this for a while, just purely, I mean, this book in itself should be just a cover buy, as you can imagine. So, oh my gosh, we have had a super chat. Wow. Sounds good. Sending good vibes to you from the community against dark week of news. It's all the best. Onwards and upwards. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you to do. Unfortunately, and I should get onto this over the Christmas period, I don't have a suitable super chat. But what we do on this channel is roll this out for you.
That's a very serious book, man.
Only 5 in existence.
There you go. I will get some super chats in there, but thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and thank you for that, Austin. It's great. Let's quickly move back to the comments. This one is glorious. I should keep paying attention to the chat instead of looking at the books. Why do you always have so much great comments? Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much, and welcome to the show. This one is glorious. I'd love to know which one it was. Okay. Bizarre Adventures, issue 27. Get to Bizarre Adventures 28, which you would have seen on the thumbnail. I always like this one in a sort of very strange and bizarre way. It's not your usual cover, is it? With Elektra, Triton. I think that's Ghost Rider, and I think that's Shang-Chi, but who knows in this world? Who knows? Who knows indeed? Is it Cull? Is it? Oh, the Cull issue. Yes. Yes. Wonderful. This one. That's the one. Yes. Thank you. Should get that. So let's have a look at this one, shall we? This is issue 28. Not long left in the run now. Only up to 34. This one, I think, is a Frank Miller story as well. So I was unsure. So yeah, full Frank Miller story featuring Elektra. So great to see that. Then next you get Shadowhunter, creation and synopsis by Neil Adams, script by Doug Mensch, pencils by Larry Hama and Neil Adams, inks by Dick Giordano, Terry Austin, Neil Adams, and Dennis Francis. Oh my gosh. I mean, that in itself, Shadowhunter is, and that's Shadowhunter on the front cover there. Then that is who it, not Shang-Chi, but Shadowhunter. So Neil Adams created character, it would appear. Wonderful to see that. Then we have The Huntsman. That is The Huntsman, it would appear. This story is by Archie Goodwin, Michael Golden, and Steve Mitchell. Yeah, you can really tell the Michael Golden art there. Interesting stuff. And then I'm assuming we get a Triton story at the end. And here it is. Here's your Triton story. Conscience of the King. So fabulous stuff. I mean, again, I this one for me is just a pure cover buy for the hilarity of the cover with all of these unlikely heroes sort of banded together. So that one's fabulous stuff. Hi Matt, just picked up the EC Archives paperback of crime suspense stories for some Sunday reading. Very good. Awesome to see. This one is issue 31. Very interesting cover. Not really suitable maybe for today. Then we get story by Denny O'Neil, and again art by Frank Miller. Again, beautifully realized stuff. Look at this. Dr. Death versus Kip story. And the Hangman Strikes Twice. And again, you get really interesting mix of stories, and very much at the end of its run became much more anthology based. So not a lot of heroes in here. Bit of Herb Trimpe art here with the story by Tom DeFalco. It's very much more. Then an advert for Full Color Comics with Star Slayer and Captain Victory by your man Jack Kirby. But that one is issue 31. Beautiful painted cover. Issue 32, we get another Thor story, and a beautiful cover. So goes from complete anthology tile to running a huge Thor story alongside a whole host of other stories. I think this is John Bolton again. Yep, and Alan Zelenitz and John Bolton on art. The Thor story here. So great to see John Bolton tackling the God of Thunder. Look at that one. Thor battling a massive seahorse. The scale that John Bolton seems to draw here is actually quite impressive stuff. So there's your beautiful Thor story. Then we get a story by Larry Hama, Demon's Bridge. Great stuff there. Bit of Tom DeFalco and Steve Smallwood. It's a bit of a cartoon story. As you can see, the content starts to mix up just a little bit more towards the end. This is my understanding is the first story, published story by Anne Niacenti. So this is story copyright Anne Niacenti, art copyright Greg LaRocque. So the first story by Anne Niacenti, who would go on to do Daredevil. So fabulous stuff. And then we've got, to close us out, The Prophet with Mark Grunwald on story and artwork by Val Merrick. Again, look at that artwork. It's absolutely stunning stuff. Oh no, one last story. Of course, Al Milgram drawing and art on this, and story and art on this story of God. Ironically enough. So there's issue 32. The penultimate issue is issue 33. Bizarre Adventures, featuring Tomb of Dracula, Tales of the Zombie, and again back to the horror with this photo cover, which is pretty horrific. Would have liked proper art, but we get instead some great stories. So Stanley presents Tales of the Zombie, the Tales of the Zombie story, and we also get, post the Tales of the Zombie story, we get Vault of Evil Sleigh Ride. Bit of a werewolf story there. Haunt of Horror, The Survivor. And last, Tomb of Dracula with story by Stephen Perry, art by S.R. Bissett and Tottleburn. So very interesting stuff there. And lovely Tomb of Dracula story to close us out for the penultimate issue. But the one I wanted to share with you is this one. Bizarre Adventures. It's Christmas, folks. Bizarre Adventures. The last issue of Bizarre Adventures ended up in comic format, bizarrely, with this crazy Christmas cover, as you can see here, and in comic format. So this is the last title, and all with Christmas stories throughout. But I just noticed that Matt has left. Let me just check this. Oh my gosh, Matt, you didn't have to do that. Thank you very much. You're going to get the obligatory non-super chat thing.
That's a very serious book, man.
Only 5 in existence.
Thank you very much, mate. That is much appreciated, and welcome to the stream again, as I say. Perfectly timed for the end with this Marvel weirdness, which again is again one of these covers. It's going to be featured on my Christmas covers show when I do that. So this is one of the classics. But what's great about this is that it has 6 different stories, all based around Santa, and they're absolutely fantastic stories. Really enjoy all of these. Very dark and very bizarre, twisted. So I don't know how, not Comics Code Authority approved. So as you can see here, they say not for kiddies and we mean it. So yeah, get a nice Howard the Duck story in here as well, where lamenting obviously Christmas. One of my favorite stories is this one, which I read through the other day, is this story, which is pretty terrible story, really. This kid going around killing Santas because Santa killed his father when he was a child by rolling on him off the chimney. It's a very strange story, but eventually he gets Santa and gets rid of Santa, only to make the Easter Bunny his next target. So pretty strange stuff, but fabulous little snapshot, as I say, the end of the run. So that's it, folks. It's been an absolute pleasure to be back on the horse, been doing the show, hanging out with you all. Thank you very much for joining. I'm going to just take this down for a second and move this and add me back up. But yeah, I wanted to thank you all for joining. Thank you all for the support as well. Honestly, it's meant a lot over the last few days. And really sort of kept my spirits up. Hopefully we'll find these books. If you haven't already, please check out my latest video and check out the list of books that have gone missing. I'd love if we can try and find these as a community. No idea where they're going to turn up. They'll turn up at some point, I'm pretty sure. But I did want to say thank you again to everyone, A, that joined today, and B, that supported the channel throughout. So with that, take care of yourselves, and I will see you all next issue.